The Buddhist principle I learned from my teacher Sangharakshita, who gave a series of lectures, I think it was in 1976, on the transformation of self and world in a very well-known Mahayana sutra called the Sutra of Golden Light. And there he showed that essentially you cannot work on yourself, you cannot transform your own mind unless at the same time you're working on the world. And he said at the same time you cannot work on the world effectively unless you're working on your own mind. And it's fairly obvious in a way in that all the mental states you're trying to cultivate in working on yourself have an implicit altruistic dimension. You look at the precepts, if you look at metta, if you look at awareness, if you look at wisdom, wisdom conjoined with compassion and so on. You can't really have wisdom without compassion, like you can't have compassion without wisdom. And in the same way, the world knows very well that if we try and work on the world without transforming our own mental states, we bring all our own ugliness into the work that we do, corruption, etc., etc., etc. So this was a principle I learned from him in the mid-70s. And then when I went to India and I came in contact with Dr. Ambedkar's conversion movement in the late 70s, I realised that this was the essence of that movement. And Ambedkar was quite, I think it was quite remarkable that someone who had come from such an oppressed background, you know, one of the most structurally oppressed backgrounds the world has known, untouchability, and so strongly entrenched in Indian society, chose the path of, or realised that along with external reforms in education, law, economics, that a change of attitude was absolutely essential. He said something like he didn't know how people could have economic success when they still had the stigma of untouchability attached to them. Yeah? In other words, they had no dignity. They couldn't hold their head high up in society. They couldn't think well of themselves. I think that was probably the worst thing about untouchability, that people could not think well of themselves. They thought that they were. This was the strength of untouchability and the caste system, that people actually thought they should be untouchables, and that it was their fault, and that they should accept that status and not try and change it. So Ambedkar realised that without a change in people's inner attitudes to themselves, there could be no effective social change. And it was this realisation that led him eventually to Buddhism, because he saw that Buddhism was in his mind extremely relevant in the modern age. He said, what did he say? He said that a very interesting thing. At the time of preparing the Constitution of India, drafting the Constitution, he said, in all societies law plays a very small part. Most people are guided not by law, which is aimed at keeping the minority within the bounds of social behaviour. Most people are guided by the dictates of morality, he said. Yeah? And that morality is guided by their religious views. So he wanted, he said, a religion that encouraged the right sort of, or the appropriate sort of morality. And he said there are three criteria for that morality and that religion. One, it should be in accordance with reason and science. Two, it should be in accordance with the values of liberty, equality, fraternity. And three, he said, it should not encourage or ennoble or sanctify poverty. And he said he found this only in Buddhism. It's extremely interesting, sort of following his path, as it were, from first of all a determination to eradicate untouchability, a determination to bring about changes, the necessary changes in Indian society, and then this realization that along with external changes, a deep attitudinal change had to come about in the individuals concerned.